Today we're going to look at major scales, how they're formed, what the formula for major scales are, and how they differ from other sounds. If you hear the major scale on the piano, the Western ear will automatically register it as happy. And that differs from a minor scale, which will register as sad, or kind of gloomy. So what we're going to do today is learn how to apply that on the guitar, learn a few easy shapes and patterns, and then one way that we can play the major scale all over the guitar, no matter where we start, it's one pattern that can be transposed and transcribed everywhere on the guitar. First, let's take a look at what the major scale looks like on one string. That will be the closest thing that we can get to the major scale on the piano. If you notice it on the piano, it's just the white keys, right? Starting from this key, going to this key. That's C to C. C, D, E, F, G, A, B, C. I go up one octave, 8 notes. All those white keys are just our music alphabet starting from C. No sharps, no flats. If I go and take it up to D, it changes. That one too. And so let's take a look at what it looks like on the guitar. On one string, this is how we can kind of get to that same idea of just the white keys. You can see that I have my naturally worked in half step that we've talked about, B to C, and I have it again here on E to F. If you remember, we had one sentence which went big cats eat first. That's how we remember those half steps. B to C, E to F. This will occur anywhere on the guitar. So when we get back to C, lost my pointer. C, D, E, F, G, A, B, C. There's my half step again. So let's try to play that. If I do this on the guitar, the easiest way to do this is just on one string, one finger. So I'm going to demonstrate first. I'm starting on C. This pattern, I want you to think of it as C to C, one octave. So it would go C, D, E, F, G, A, B, C. Backwards C, B, A, G, F, E, D, and I'm back home at C. Okay, let's look at how this matches up with whole steps and half steps. Whole steps, if you remember, is jumping up 2 frets, 1, 2. Half steps is moving just 1 fret, so that's where we get the open position to the first fret. Or if I go to E and F, 5 to 6. So let's take a look and see how this matches up. C to D, whole step. D to E, whole step. E to F, half step. Remember, big cats eat first. F to G, whole step. G to A, whole step. A to B, whole step. And B to C, half step. All the half steps, think of them as 1 fret away. All the whole steps, think of them as 2 frets away. Let's play that one more time. So we would go C, whole step up, D, 2 frets, E, 1 fret, F, 2 frets, G, 2 frets, A, 2 frets, B, 1 fret, C. Try this a few times, get comfortable with how it moves up and down the guitar. And then I want you to try to apply that same pattern in different positions on the guitar. For example, this was on the B string, but I can take it from the A string also, and I can follow that same pattern. From A to B, there's a whole step, and from B to C, there's a half step. So I'm going to go A to B, whole step, 2 frets, and B to C, half step, 1 fret. I start on the 3rd fret. So then I'm going to try it here. 3rd fret C, whole step D, E, F, G, A, B, C. And I'm moving the same number of frets. I'm going C, D, E. You notice those are whole steps. Here's my half step to F, G, A, B, and C. I would land on 12, 13, 14, 15, the 15th fret. And anywhere else where I can find a C, I can also do this. So for example, I can also find a C on the G string, G, A, B, and C. So I can start from there, do the same pattern. C, D, E, F, G, A, B, C. I would land on the 17th fret. So try a few of these. I'm going to give you one more. And this is going to be on the low E string. You can do it on the low E string or you can do it on the high E. Think E, F, G, A, B, C. Half step. And I can start from there. Same pattern. Whole step, half step, and so on and forward. Once you have that down, once you have that pattern down, you'll notice there's a formula to it. It always stays the same. It's always a whole step from C, whole step from D, whole step from half step from E, and on and on. So let me get rid of some of these markings. And let's take a look just at this original pattern. I'm going to draw on this so that we can know the difference between whole steps, half steps. Anytime I have a whole step, I'm going to draw a bracket. And for half steps, I'm going to draw a small triangle. So we start with 2 whole steps, then a half step. Then I have 3 whole steps and a half step. The formula then, W for whole, H for half, W, W, H, whole, half, W, 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 H. I'm going to write it up here. And I want you to follow along at home too. Whole, half, whole, half. We can take this, apply it to any other note, and get the same pattern. So you can start on D, go a whole step, half step, you end up with a major scale. You can start from any note. Keep this in mind, we're going to come back to it in a little bit. First, before we get too technical, before I lose you, let's try some easy patterns that you can play on the guitar and that will help you kind of understand and have some go-tos to work through and to practice. This first one, it's also a major scale. I call it the E shape because we start on the E string. And we would just be moving up as it shows. 0, 2, 4. Then we jump to the A string. 0, 2. I'm only giving you 5 notes for now. That's all I want you to worry about. One more time. Open E, 2nd fret, 4th fret. Open A, 2nd fret. I can do it all the way back down too. 2nd fret, open A, 4th fret of the E, 2nd fret of the E, open E. All together. The cool thing about this shape is you can memorize this shape and play it on the next 2 strings. You can play the same exact pattern on the A string, open, 2, 4, open D, and 2. Or you can play the same pattern on the D string. So right there, just one shape, one pattern, and I can play 3 different major scales. E, the A major scale, and the D major scale. The reason I call them those names because of the note that it starts with. You'll notice I didn't color in the open E. I left it hollow. I just drew a circle. That would be the name of my scale, E. If I move that up and moved it to the A, well, now it would be the A major scale. Notice how the A string is hollow. That's my starting note. Here it would be the D major scale, and I start on D. That's how I get the name of the scale. But again, I call it the E shape because we can start learning it from the E string. Let's look at another one. This one, now take note of how I drew it in red. It's going to be very important. We're going to come back to that. This we call the F shape, and you guessed it because we start on an F. If I go half step up from E, I'm going to have an F. I get there. So F, sorry, I wasn't plugged in all the way. F, G, A, B flat, C. But you don't have to worry about the notes. You can just remember the pattern. First fret, third fret, open A, first fret, third fret, and back down. And you guessed it, like the E shape, I can move that to the A string. So now I'm starting on the first fret of the A string. And I can move that to the D string, first fret of the D string. It's just 5 notes, just 2 strings. Now you know 6 different scales. This would be F major. If I start on the first fret of the A, it's actually a note between A and B. We call this one B flat. So you learned your first flat major scale, B flat. All you have to know is the name. Don't worry about any of the rest. Starting on the first fret of the D, D up a half step is either D sharp or E flat. So it's between D and E because my next note from D is a whole step up. Between that, we call this one E flat. But again, and I repeat myself again and again, don't worry about what the notes are. Think about that first. I already gave you the answer. Remember what scale it is, B flat or E flat, depending on if you're starting on the A string or on the D string. But remember the pattern. Get that under your fingers. Get moving and get that exercise. And you'll slowly start to just have muscle memory for it. And more importantly, your musical brain, your musical knowledge, your musical memory will start to develop. And every time you hear that, you'll recognize it. Every time that you're playing a song, then you'll start to think, oh, that doesn't match. That's not in the major scale. Or you'll start to write and you'll think, oh, where should I go next? Well, if you're writing over E, you already have set notes that you can play with. Just 5 notes for now. That's all you need to worry about. Let's keep going. There's one more go-to easy shape that I want to teach you, which is the G. This one starts on the 3rd fret of the low E. That's a G. If I go E, F is on the 1st fret, G is on the 3rd fret. So G. Notice how this one has 3 strings. I start on the low E, then I go A string, 2nd fret, 3rd fret, then I play the D string. If you feel more comfortable with the tabs, you can look at them here and I've got the whole pattern. So I'm kind of working through these because you'll have all of this to work on your own. And that way you can spend as much time as you need on each individual scale. You have 3 different patterns to go with so far. And so you can spend as much on each one. If you need to spend a whole day on E, spend a whole day on E, then move it up to the A string. It's the same pattern. Then move it up to the D string. Same pattern. Once you're comfortable with that one, move up to the F shape. Spend a day on that, then move up to the next string. Day is done, and move up to the next string. But my guess is that you'll probably spend a day on each shape, moving it between strings. These are fairly easy once you get them down. You can use them as warm-ups anytime that you pick up your guitar. There's one thing about the G shape to keep in mind. As we move it up, it will stay the same. I can start on the 3rd fret of the A, and now I have that sound, a major sound, starting on C. You'll remember this one for whenever we were doing the whole major scale on one string. This is A, B, half step to C, big cats. So far so good. Here's where it gets tricky. When I go up to the D string, if I play this pattern, it won't sound major anymore. And that's because B, unlike our other strings, doesn't follow the same tuning structure. It's tuned a half step lower. So we have to bring that note half step higher. That doesn't make sense? Just think of it like this. Move this note up to the 1st fret. So off of the D string, this is D, E, F major. 1st fret of the B. For us, I'm going to write that one down because it is a little bit more tricky. So we've got it up here on the fretboard. This is starting on the D string, ending on the 1st fret of the B string. But the tabs will look like this. I'm starting on the D string. This is on an F major scale. And it would go 3, open G. This follows the same pattern, so I'm going to have these side by side. So the same pattern, 2, 3. And here's where it changes. Instead of going to open for the next string, I'm going to go to the 1st fret of the next string. Altogether, 3, 0, 2, 3, and then 1 on the B string, and back. So this is the one exception to this rule. You have 3 shapes that work. You have this G shape, you have the F shape, and you have the E shape. You can play them on the you can play them on the E, the A, and the D strings. You can do that for the F shape. E, A, and D strings, those will be the same. The one exception is when you get to the D string for this G shape. I'm going to move this back so that you can see the original. I don't know why it keeps on zooming in and out. Sorry. And the original looks like this. The original does have an open string for the highest note. But the variation, remember, the one change is when you start on the D string and you go up to the B string has to go to the 1st fret. Again, whatever questions you have, feel free to ask me. But you've got this all recorded. Stop, go back as many times as you need to. All right. The last little bit on major scales and how we're going to work them out. This is not too high of a stretch. I want you to start visualizing, just like we saw that they can change from string to string. We can move them up to start on different frets, higher frets. And we're starting this just with this shape, the F shape. Notice how if I grab this whole shape, move it up one fret, it stays the same. If I move up to start now on the 3rd fret, it stays the same. So I can take this shape, the F shape, is our master shape, our universal shape that we can move up the fretboard. Instead of staying in the open position with the same frets, I can move it to different frets. Let me show you what this looks like. Keep an eye out on this one. It starts here. It started with the 1st fret, and I played an open A. Well, now I want to take it and, and I can move it up to my 2nd fret. I am going to start on the 2nd finger this time. And this pattern is 2, 4, 1, 2, 4. So those were my fret numbers, but it doesn't stay there, because these can be my finger numbers as I move up. Let's draw this one again. Here's my master shape. If I start on the 2nd fret, my first note gives me the name of the chord, and this would be the shape afterwards, those first 5 notes of the major scale. I go 2, 4, 1, 2, 4. Let me tab it out. I know that this will be how a lot of you think. 2, 4, 1, 2, 4, and back. 2, 1, 2, 4. So I'm on the 2nd fret of the E. But I can take that same shape, same fingering, and move it up to the 3rd fret. I use the same fingers. 2nd finger, 4th finger, 1st, 2nd, 4th. Notice how the pattern now matches the first frets that I played. Same fingers. 2, 4, 1, 2, 4. If I move up to the 4th fret, same fingering. 2, 4, 1, 2, 4. And I can keep going. So before your brain explodes, we're going to stop there. There's just those 3 shapes that you need to memorize. And notice how you can just get them under your fingers, get that pattern down. So there's the E shape, the F shape, and the G shape. But then notice how our F shape can move up and become kind of like an F sharp shape, but a master shape to play major scales all over the guitar. Master this first, and then we'll take a look at how we can apply the formula, that whole, whole, half, whole, 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 half formula, and get the notes for the other shapes so that it doesn't stay just on how does it feel mechanically, but also how does it look and how can we bring in a little bit more brain power to remember and learn some of those notes in the other scales. All right, if you need any other help, let me know, send me a text, and I'll see you in class.